right, welcome back again. Today is workbook lesson number 8. So the lesson is today, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So uh, again, let's go back to our diagram here. Uh, Obviously, if we're seeing all this stuff and it's coming from this film, which is on the altar, uh, these are all created before, and we already talked about this being an effect rather than something that we can actually interact with, or at least these people can interact with. Light goes through it just as it would a film, and you're thinking about what you see, but these are just the image, really. I mean, there's nothing you can actually change there. Not real time, anyway. You can change your mind about what is in the film, which will change the film, but this is one step removed, right? So, again, think of it like this. Think of our mirror, which is all of consciousness, as being represented in an individual mind as like a projector. So these thoughts are coming out, and they're sort of like, we all kind of know that time is relative, space is relative. This is kind of projected as though anything that's close to you is perceived as distance, and anything that's far away is perceived in time. So they're really the same thing. Time and distance in this case, this is just going through the story, and there's like a pace that's a normal pace, and there's a pace that's faster that would lead to you to perceive it differently. But this is exactly how the Greeks perceived time. They had this story of the past that was projecting into the future. And you can change the future by changing the story, right? But you can't change this after it's come out because it is an effect. And maybe I shouldn't say that so equivocally, but at least what I can understand, that can't be changed once it's out. It's an image, and at least if you believe in yourself as a little individual human, then you're going to experience what's coming out into the world. So fighting any of this stuff is just absolutely futile. What you have to do is change your mind, because this is what's the creator in this situation. Every thought is an act of creation, and that's something that the book mentions maybe at least once, I don't know, maybe a couple times. It's not as simple as, obviously, just a projector, but it's more this 3D kind of idea. This is a hologram, and try not to take this too literally with this exact picture, but the whole world being a hologram and a person being an image in it, experiencing the hologram three-dimensionally. And that's why it seems so real, and that's why, just like in a dream, you can have all these sensual experiences, and they seem so real. So let's get to the actual lesson. So it says, and keep in mind, I remove some of the stuff I think is not that important. In actuality, everything's important. But I'm just kind of making my judgments about what is the most important, and what I want to talk about at the time will mean that I can remove certain elements. So it's not that what I'm removing isn't important, and I still recommend that you read all these. But for our purposes, if you're going to follow me along this path, then you can probably leave them out. Or at least, actually, I just contradicted myself. If you're doing the lessons, read them on your own too. I think it's a really good idea. But this is kind of presented in a way that I can keep it minimal. So don't think that what I'm cutting is not important. It could be the most important line of the whole book for you that's going to set off a chain of psychological sort of fill-in kind of psychological puzzle that's going to be like the most important piece that takes two halves and really puts them together. Who knows, right? So I'm not saying that what I'm removing is not important. So anyway, my digression out of the way. No one really sees anything. He sees only his thoughts projected outward. So just like we were talking, the mind's preoccupation with the past is the cause of the misconception about time, from which your seeing suffers. Your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time that there is. It can therefore cannot understand time and cannot in fact understand anything. So your mind in your body is disarticulated from what it really is. And again, I'm speaking about something that I'm not 100% sure about. In this case, most of the things I do talk to you about, I am fairly 99% sure about. But that's just my belief right now, so maybe that's not quite correct. But let's take it as a moving forward stance that makes the most sense at this point. So very few have realized what is actually entailed in picturing the past or anticipating the future. The mind is actually blank when it does this, because it is not really thinking about anything. And this is an important realization. And I think we've alluded to it before, but when your mind is watching your brain put out these images about what's happened to you in the past, your mind isn't actually thinking. It's just watching. And then there's this dance of ping pong ideas going back and forth, and it just kind of watches it. And it keeps it preoccupied away from the real important things that you need to think about. And that's why we're doing this right now, is at least the realization that that's happening. The purpose of the exercises for today is to begin to train your mind to recognize when it is not really thinking at all. While thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. Recognizing that your mind is merely blank rather than believing that it is filled with real ideas is the first step to opening the way to vision. The exercise of today should be done with eyes closed. Introduce the practice period by saying, I seem to be thinking about blank. So whatever the dominant sort of theme of what you're thinking about. Then name each of the thoughts specifically. So I seem, and it's really important to highlight the seem here, because the seem is an important part of the sentence. I seem to be thinking about this, a name of a person, about a name of an object, about name of an emotion, and so on, concluding at the end that your mind searching period with, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So why the seem is so important, I'm not sure if I put this up yet. So the seem is so important is this realization that, yes, it looks like something's there. Yes, you think you're having all these interactions, but your mind is just preoccupied with past thoughts. It's that projector, it is that film that keeps being projected. So they say for today, 3 to 4 times if you find it irritating, and then 5 to 6 times if there's little resistance. So as many as you can to a limit of 6, but 3 or 4 will be all that you really need. Okay, good luck with that, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.